I'm here with Amy Flint, who is seeking re-election for the school board position, District 4, I believe.
Yes.
I am asking the same questions of all the candidates. You are acknowledging to me and to the viewers that you have not had any foreknowledge of the questions I'll be asking, even though we are friends. I have not previously shared information with you, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so here we go.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
start off a little differently.
Okay.
I know you've been interviewed like crazy.
It's all good.
This is different. I have a different type of question to start off this conversation.
Okay.
Tell us something unique about yourself.
That's a good question. Something unique. I'm not from here, but I love San Angelo. That's not unique though. Everybody loves San Angelo. But I think something unique about me would be that I'm a member of the Jewish community here, and president of the congregation actually. And but I love all religions, and just I'm so sorry.
Well, sorry, we got disrupted
Yes,
there.
sorry about
You
that.
were talking about your unique thing was being president of the Jewish synagogue.
Yes. Yeah, and just that, I love all religions, and I think I'm open-minded and will talk about religion to anybody, and so I think that's something unique about me.
All right. What do you bring to the table that will, or does, since you're already on the board, enhance the school board?
I think going back to being open-minded, I listen to what people have to say, and speak to the people or lead them to people that can help solve issues that they might have. I said I love San Angelo. I have a passion for the city of San Angelo. I think that the best way to influence the city that I love is to be a part of the decision making for our children, and which will affect our city for decades to come, and the people here. And I think just my love of advocacy. I love advocating for the students and the parents and the teachers. I love going to Austin and DC and advocating for our district, and I just think all of those combined make me a good candidate.
So is that the next question, I think you kind of bled into it a little bit, was what motivated you to step up and run again for school board?
Mm-hmm. The past 8 years that I have served on the school board have been one of the greatest honors of my life. I mean, I've just really loved having the opportunity to be a representative for our school district, and I can't wait to hopefully have the opportunity to continue.
So, do you have children or grandchildren?
No grandchildren yet. Not to that point yet.
I know, on some people that'll be fun to ask,
Yes.
but I've given the same questions to all.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have children or grandchildren currently in SAISD?
Yes, I have a sophomore at Central and a 5th grader at Bowie, and 2 that have recently, well, I say recently, they're graduates of ASU now, but 2 that went all the way through the district.
Okay.
So,
what is your number one complaint about our school system here?
I think we're in the process of fixing it, but I think the biggest complaint that I have had over the past several years has been that the communication hasn't been as strong as I felt like it should be. I think the community doesn't fully understand STAR testing, and they don't fully understand the ways schools work, and that all the things that teachers have to do to make our students successful, and the expectations of the parents and the expectations of the students. I think communication, I say in every aspect of my life, communication is key. And I think this year has been different, but up until this year, I feel like communication's been kind of a struggle.
Okay. What do you like best about our school system?
from getting to speak to the teachers and the students, or the admin, and I've never known a more passionate group of people, and I think that passion filters down.
I'm going to pause this. All right, just for the standpoint of the viewers, we are at her office,
Yes,
and
I
the phone was
apologize.
ringing, and they're short-staffed at the moment, and
Very sorry.
so our apologies. You were saying what you like best about our school system. Let's pick back up there.
Yes, so really the passion of our teachers and our admin that just, I think, filters throughout the district. And I mean, just because there's a passion doesn't mean that everything runs perfectly. So I'm not by any means saying that everything's perfect, but I do think, I mean, we have some teachers that are amazing, and we have some principals and administrators that are amazing and bring so much to our district. And I think that we should all be proud of what we have here in West Texas.
Okay. I'm going to change the style here. We're going to go to some, I want your perspective on a variety of topics. So I'm going to hit you with bullet points.
Okay.
And you can expound, explain, whatever.
Okay. I'm good at babbling,
whatever.
so we'll see.
Okay, so here we go. Bullet points.
All right.
Transgender restrooms and showers. Your perspective.
I think our district has always done things a little different with that. When, first of all, the number that we're talking about in San Angelo is minuscule. I mean, I can probably count on less than both hands the number of students that affects. So because that number is so small, we're able to allow them to use the staff bathrooms or the nurses' bathrooms, because really, I mean, just, in the ways some people might be uncomfortable with them, with somebody who's transitioned to another gender, somebody might be uncomfortable using that restroom. They're going to be uncomfortable using that restroom too. They don't want to be bullied, and so to eliminate that, we just let them use the staff or nurses' bathrooms.
All right. Teaching sexuality options to elementary age children.
That I read about that. That's something that's been discussed. It's not one of our TEKs yet, and hopefully it isn't. But I personally, I don't think that elementary school students need to be privy to that information yet.
Okay. Critical race theory.
I've honestly heard of that, but I don't know what it is. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Misinformation and omission in our textbooks today.
So that I obviously have issues with, but what I will say when I've asked about that is that our schools don't just use textbooks alone. So the wonderful thing about the internet is we're able to pull in other resources and use primary sources, and so teachers know what needs to be taught, and of course they follow the TEKs, but then they will also pull in other resources as needed to cover the details they want to cover.
Okay. Old-fashioned reading, writing, and arithmetic.
I think obviously important, but not enough for today's students.
Teaching life skills.
One of the most important things we need to teach to our students.
Teaching the trades, plumbing, electrical, construction.
I am so proud of our partnership with the West Texas Training Center at Howard College. We have hundreds of students out there every single day working on exactly those kinds of trades. And a lot of them graduate with a 2-year certificate or degree ready to start in the workforce.
Mask mandates and social distancing when youth have virtually zero issues with COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. We actually just talked about this, and I'm right on the same page as you. However, the reason I think at this point we need to maintain at least the masks is because the CDC requires that if there's a child in a classroom who tests positive, and that's an if, but if there is, then if the other people in the classroom aren't wearing a mask, then they have to quarantine the whole classroom. And our district is very proud that we have not had to quarantine any entire classrooms because of the mask mandate. So for the CDC requirement alone, I think we need to keep it until that requirement's lifted, which will hopefully be very soon.
Students in sports being required to wear masks while competing.
I don't think we do that. But I don't think, I think that while they're competing, and I guess I haven't seen them having to wear masks while they're competing, but if they do have to, I think that would be very difficult to play.
Changing the names of schools.
So I'm gonna go on for a little bit more than a bullet point on this one.
Okay, that's fine.
I knew you thought it.
That's fine.
I knew I would. So when I first heard that somebody wanted to change the name of Lee Middle School, my first instinct was, we're not doing that. There's no reason to do that. It's been the name of Lee forever. It's fine. We're San Angelo. We don't need to change. But I will say that, we took a very long time to listen to a lot of people. We listened to, I have notes on literally many dozens of people. I don't want to say just dozens because that doesn't sound like a lot, but over 100. I have 100 people that I've spoken to. And, the thing is, there's a group of people, of course, that went to Lee and love Lee, and that's their middle school, and they didn't want to change it. And I fully understand that. I wouldn't want my middle school name changed either. But then there's the people who went to Lee who said, that they've always had, an issue. They had an issue wearing, the man's name on his chest who fought to keep their family enslaved, and the young kids who said, that they're embarrassed to go to a school named after that person. And so, what it comes down to is, what it came down to for me, I read something somewhere, and I can't remember where it was now. I hate when I can't remember the name. But anyway, I read something somewhere that said, when a minority vote comes down to an election, the minority is always going to lose. And I thought about that a lot, and I thought, this really is a minority versus majority issue. And for me, when hearing people say that, this discussion should have come up years ago and it didn't, and what my final decision maker, I guess, was I started thinking about how, this decision has gotten, the conversation had gotten so far, and it's going to come up again. And in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, when it comes up again, I didn't want the school board then to look back at the school board in 2020 and say, why didn't they make that decision? Because I feel like, for whatever reason, Robert Lee's name has become the, impetus for, the Confederacy, and, and I know, I've heard all about him. I know how wonderful he is. I know what great things he's done. I know all the good things. But for whatever reason, that's become the issue. And I wanted to be part of the change now, so that we didn't have to, so the future school board didn't have to worry about that. Having said that, we've made a pretty strong stance, I think, that we're not changing other names of schools. And so I feel like we made the decision that needed to be made this year, but we're not doing that moving forward.
All right. End of bullet points. Now back to questions.
Back to bullet points. I'll be back again. Sorry. I had a lot to say about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely all right.
Okay.
All right. Would you be willing to stand up for the betterment of our children against TEA mandates?
It depends what they are, but yes, I would advocate against TEA if it meant something that was better for our children.
If our community does not want these and other progressive, secular, anti-faith standards in our schools, would you fight to bring back godly standards to our local school system?
I would fight to you touch on a touchy subject for me.
I know.
Because, of course, I'm a godly person, right? We all are, but of course, I'm a huge believer in God. But the problem with bringing God specifically into the classroom is, then you're talking about, is it? And of course, you and I have the same God. But then, what if somebody says, well, but the way you say that isn't right, And so, you and I mean, I have different beliefs than some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like we can all learn together in a classroom with different beliefs, but if you start bringing religion into the classroom, then I think that brings some issues that aren't necessarily part of a curriculum. Having said that, I do think that our society as a whole has gotten too far away from God. So I'm really kind of torn on that subject. I think we should, maybe teach our children to embrace their whatever their higher power is, embrace their God and be part of, something bigger than themselves. But I don't know that bringing one specific religion to a school is fair to the other religions.
Okay. Do you think there should be an exit test for students to show that they can handle basic life skills, basic employable work requirements, and not simply just passed along to keep the numbers looking great in order to receive their diplomas?
So, as of...
Shall we pause? We will pause. All right, back to the question.
So as far as I know, life skills aren't part of the TEKS right now that students need, and they're not being tested. I'm kind of torn on this one too a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I feel like life skills are something that our parents should be teaching, and our scout leaders and our church leaders. I mean, I think teachers have so much else going on in the classrooms with, of course, academics and social issues that we're having to deal with, and mental health issues that are in our schools, and so much that, to then say, oh, and now you have to change a tire. You have to learn how to change a tire before you can graduate, or you have to learn how to sew on this button. My dad taught me how to change a tire. My mom showed me how to sew on a button. It doesn't mean it couldn't be switched, but
Right.
And I teach my Girl Scout troop how to do other life skills. I think I don't agree with passing them along, whether or not they pass a test, but I also don't think that life skills should be the sole requirement of the schools. I think I've said it in other interviews, I think it takes a village to raise a child and to educate a child, and I think that shouldn't be part of our curriculum. Or
Okay.
as part of our, it should be part of our, it can be part of a curriculum, but it shouldn't be like a main focus. We have so many other main focuses that need to be worked on.
All right. The budget and overseeing facilities are a large part of the responsibilities of the school board. Share your ideas on how to keep our facilities in good repair and updated without busting the bank.
So that's a major problem for us because just like any business or organization, 80% of our budget goes to salary. And that's right in line with where it should be. Any organization is going to say that about right around that same number. So then, of course, we have aging facilities. Some of our schools were built in the early 1900s. Most of those older schools have been redone with the bond that we had in 2007, I think it was. But then. Maybe it was 2010. I'm sorry, and it was before I got on the board, so I don't know those numbers. But anyway, but then a bond is not necessarily something that the community wanted a few years ago. But at the same time, at some point, we need to fix our other schools up. And without having passed the bond, we've been able to get. A lot of other things fixed that that we were hoping to do with the bond, so I think there's a lot. We have gotten a lot done. We have a long way to go in terms of making schools equitable for all of our children across the board. But at some point, if the district wants nicer facilities, at some point we'll probably need a bond. I'm not saying anytime in the next year or two, but at some point in the future, that's going to probably be a necessity.
Okay. Do you think our current financial structure, budget-wise, is too top-heavy administratively? Would you be willing to trim at the top to allow more funds to be utilized at the actual school level?
think, I mean, every year when we look at the budget, we kind of review what each of the positions does, and I think, I mean, I'm like processing
Yeah,
through each of
I
the positions right now. I mean, every position that we have directly affects the schools, on some, in different ways, and with so much going on in our schools, whether it's federal funds and special needs and arts and curriculum, and I mean, there really is. I mean, I'm not going to, without looking at the budget, I'm not going to say there's no place to trim, but but we do look every year, as we set the budget, which we're about to start looking at again in the next couple months, and every year we are able to justify every position and discuss why it's needed. So I would say that I'd be willing to look again, as we do every year, but continue to look at the positions and see, what needs to be trimmed if we needed to always looking for ways to get back to the schools. That's always, of course, our top priority.
All right. Do you prefer automatic pay raises or more of a merit-based raise, and why?
I think the problem with merit-based pay, because I've actually read a lot about this, and the problem with merit-based pay is that you don't have the same types of kids in every classroom, if that makes sense. And so how would you compare, if you're going to compare, if you have a student who teaches all pre-AP or all AP classes compared to a teacher who teaches students who are at risk, you can't tell me that at-risk teacher isn't doing just as good of a job or better than, well, not better, but just as good of a job as the teacher teaching the AP. But of course the AP kids are going to score higher because they're inherently, that's inherently what they're going to do. And so to me, merit-based pay, with the different types of jobs that our teachers do, would be hard to justify. And so I think that overall, that's why we've gone with just automatic. If you're a teacher, if you're in this teacher salary range, then you get a salary increase. I think I understand the premise behind merit-based pay, but when you really stop and look at the different levels of kids and the different types of classes and different things that teachers do, I think it would be hard to justify that.
Okay. If parents are not happy with what TEA is requiring, what are you willing to do to be their voice to the state?
Like I said, advocacy is one of my passions, and I have no problem. I go and speak to Senator Perry and Drew Darby all the time, and I've spoken to Raise Your Hand Texas, and I've spoken to TEA representatives about different issues. So I don't have a problem advocating if there's an issue.
Okay. Describe what you envision as being the representative for the people who vote you into this position on the school board. You're in that position.
I know.
But so say going forward.
Yes, ma'am. So I think the important thing to consider here is that not only would I represent the people who vote for me, but I represent the people who don't vote for me too. That doesn't necessarily mean the people who vote for my opponent, but also people who are in other districts. I mean, once you're on the board, anybody from any part of the district can contact any member they wish. So for me, I consider myself an advocate for our students and an advocate for our parents and an advocate for our teachers. Out in the community, I feel like it's my job to be an advocate for our district. We have some lots of viable options in San Angelo, and it's not up to me to say one is better than the other, but I will always advocate for SAISD, which doesn't mean that SAISD is the perfect thing for every child, but I will always be an advocate for the district and and explain why I think it's the best option for the majority of our students.
So, any closing thoughts or comments you would like to give?
I think I would just like to thank the community for being and you for being so supportive. Even we've had a tough year this year. We kind of joked. This year that between COVID and Lee, like, nobody's going to run against us. Nobody wants this job. But I, even with the struggles, with COVID, we've had a really tough year, and I think our district's done a great job mitigating all the crazy details that we've had to. And I think, with the Lee Middle School thing, it was a challenge, and it didn't go the way some people wanted to, but I think we were fair, and I think we listened to everybody. I think I loved being part of the process. I had never been part of a democratic process to that extent before, and it was really kind of energizing being part of that, to hear people get up and rate and speak their voices, and then to see the board, really all vote and discuss why they voted that way. So I guess overall, I just really want to thank the community for being as supportive as they've been through all of our struggles this year, and to please consider voting for me for the school board for District 4.
So, if someone wants to reach out to you, do you have Facebook page, website, phone numbers, email?
All that.
What do you want to give?
So my Facebook page is Re-elect Amy Mizell-Flint for SMD 4. You'll find me, and then. You can always reach out. My phone number is 325-374-8940. It's the easiest 2 ways to give.
All right, very good. I appreciate you giving your time for this interview today, even with all the busyness that's going on.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being so patient with me.
Not a problem.
All right.
Best of luck in your race.
Thank you, ma'am.